Alrighty, welcome back to the Heavy Groove List. This is Dan here, and I'm with Courtney, Versatile Virgo, once more. Welcome again, Courtney. How are you going?
Good. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be back.
Yeah, and I started doing the deep dives on albums with Peter the Destroyer on with the Pantera Vulgar Display of Power last week, and
nice.
Yeah, that was a bunch of fun to talk about. So when I thought of Facelift, only one person came to mind, and that was you.
Well, thank you. I pride myself on being an Alice in Chains super fan, so I'm glad to know that that's working.
Yeah, that's definitely working. It's definitely working. So I guess the first thing I need to ask is, okay, we know it was released in 1990, a long time ago, more than 30 years now. I guess the first thing just comes to mind is, did they play the whole album last year? I don't know, they couldn't tour, but did Jerry do anything online with, like, at the anniversary? Did they play the whole album or anything, or do any? I can't remember.
Not that I'm aware of. No, they did do I feel like they did some sort of live stream last year that was part of some sort of event, but I don't think it had to do like with Facelift. But they did release a anniversary box set that I pre-ordered last year, before they had, like, I think announced it after the anniversary, which everything was kind of screwed up last year because of COVID. And I think, like, there were, I mean, I can't speak for Alice in Chains, but in general, I just can say, as somebody who orders vinyls, I noticed there was a lot of, like, things that were back ordered, and it's just how things were last year. So they had released a 30-year anniversary box set that's supposed to have a like, I guess, like a booklet and photos and stuff, and then the vinyl, and then they also did some limited run merch. So obviously this facelift shirt I have on now is pretty standard, but I actually have, and I'm planning on doing a blog post about it. If you haven't visited my blog, it's theversatilevirgo.com. But they re-released a 1990s tour shirt from when they were touring for this album, I guess, and it's really cool. It's like white, and it has like kind of I think, if I remember correctly, I wish I would have grabbed it so I could have shown you, but yeah, had like some limited merch release and everything. But so now I had pre-ordered the vinyl box set, the whole thing, because this is like my album. So I ordered everything for it, and the shirts had come in, but I think they're still waiting for the box set. The box set was supposed to arrive today, but I didn't see if it's got pushed back a couple of times. So I'm still waiting for it to get here. Fingers crossed it comes there this time.
It would have been awesome if you
got it today. It
would have been awesome if you got it today. You could have unpacked it while we talked.
I know. Right? Been able to show it. I've been like anxiously waiting for this thing, and even before they announced it, because like I said, I believe they announced it after the album's anniversary, but I think on the day of the anniversary, if I remember correctly, they had said like they would be releasing something, and then like there wasn't anything for a while, and then maybe like a month later they had come out and said they would be releasing like some limited merch and the box set and everything like that. So I've been waiting for a long time, and I'm ready for it to get here.
Nice. So 1990, I think I was in grade 9 at high school. What were you? Were you even born yet, or were you like a couple years old?
No, so I am a 90s baby, but I would have been -3 at the time. I was born in 93.
93. That's the year I graduated. I graduated high school.
Oh, nice. This is a good year. Good year, 93.
Great.
But we had kind of talked about last time too, when I was on, how I was a 90s baby, so I was still like pretty exposed to like that type of music. That's what but I didn't really like get into Alice in Chains until I was like around 15 or so, and like could really understand all of it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So yeah.
Fair enough.
But I wish I was around it, because to have been able to see them like in their prime would be, honestly, that would probably kill me. Like to see Lane Staley live, that would just, I'd probably have the big one at that point. But
yeah, I missed the opportunity. They toured with in Australia. They toured with, I think it was Suicidal Tendencies, and I missed that show. Yeah, Spewing. No, I like both bands, so yeah, would have been great. I heard it was great, but I didn't get to that one. So, and as we spoke last time, yeah, I've seen them like recently, but not with Dwayne. So that was unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Facelift.
That would have been a great show.
What do you love? Firstly, okay, We Die Young. As soon as you hit play, whatever format, whether you got the needle, whether you got the CD player, whether you got the strip, as soon as that first riff comes in, this blow takes your head off, I reckon.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to embarrass myself by like doing the like whole air guitar thing right now, but I'm not gonna lie, I do that on my own in private. I just don't want to get roasted since this will be made public. But We Die Young is, I was actually, when we were just talking earlier, pre-recording, I was saying I had actually made some TikTok videos about Facelift. And I was like trying to go through and think like, what is like my number one favorite song from Facelift? Because to be honest, I totally love the whole album, and it's hard for me to like compare one song to another, because in my eyes it's just like all perfect. But We Die Young is definitely like one of my favorites, if not my number one favorite, because it's just so like, I don't know, for Alice in Chains, it's one song that's more just like vicious and kind of in your face, but also still like that kind of Alice in Chains trippy sort of style. Even the videos like that, for example. So yeah, like as soon as that song opens, that's a great song. That's one of the ones I like to roll down my car window.
Nice. Yeah, I think as soon as when we were in high school and first we heard that song, we were looking at each other going, what the hell is this, man? This is like really, really raw and such a cool groove in that song. And it's just over before you know it. You just wish the song went for like twice as long. So.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way to put it, I think.
Yeah, it just punches in the face and then that's it. It's gone. But it's a great opener. Awesome. For a debut album to have that come in as an introduction for a band, yeah, it just really grabbed your attention. I think that's one of the reasons why they got so much attention so quickly, is those first few tracks are just super, super good songs, like really great writing, great production. Yeah, just all around cool. So apparently, I don't know if it's true, but Jerry said that when he used to catch the bus to band practice, used to see all the kids, the little like 10 and 12-year-olds who were already dealing drugs and setting up deals in around that area, and that's where he got the inspiration for that song and the name. We Die Young, the scene with these little kid drug dealers roaming around. So
yeah, I heard that. I believe it for the time and yeah.
I mean,
I forget where I've heard that.
It's around the internet. If you look up, those sort of that album or that song, that's mentioned as part of the information. So Man in the Box is probably their most famous song, number 2. That on the back of We Die Young is again, a great track order. What do you love about Man in the Box?
Man in the Box is so like just an explosive track. Like when he does the again, I don't want to get roasted, so I'm not going to give my best Lane Staley rendition right now. But when he does the Feed My Eyes part, it's just like that, like wham, like it hits you in the face kind of. And that's like the like sheer just like power of that song. It has like a similar feel and energy, like you said, with how We Die Young is so raw. Man in the Box is the same way, where it just feels like it, like almost like it's just pouring out of them, you know what I mean? And it's just, yeah, explosive is like the best way that I could describe that song. And it's another one that's so high energy that for me it's an instant good mood song, and I know a lot of people that are like that, specifically with Man in the Box. Like that's just it's a great song.
Yeah, and the groove again, by the first two tracks, just captures you. Like anyone that was, because that was really that era where groove metal started really coming into its own. The very early 90s, very late 80s, early 90s. So they really were part of that. Even though they came from Seattle, the whole grunge thing. But like I said to you in the last conversation we had, they were never really grunge. They were never really metal. They were very much a fusion of a bunch of stuff. And that's what made them so cool. So yeah. So Man in the Box, it's a great live. Like that live performance that was released back in the day. The one where I think it's in Seattle. I could be wrong. The one where I think it's black and white, and it's that one, and just the songs on that performance on that live show is just amazing, and including this one.
Oh
yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, super cool.
Because that's where it's the next song, but the one that always comes to my mind from that performance is Bleed the Freak. That's as soon as you started saying that, I'm like, I think that's the one where they did Bleed the Freak too, that it's all in black and white. And then you said black and white. And I'm like, yeah, that's the same one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So well, they're the first four singles apparently. We Die Young, Man in the Box, Sea of Sorrow, Bleed the Freak. They're the four singles they released off the album, the first four tracks, which is kind of interesting that they just picked the first four, because normally, when bands pick out singles, it's usually, not all in sequential order like off the album. It's just one from here, one from there sort of thing. So I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, no, that definitely is interesting. And I think like when they were doing this album, I think it kind of shows like with that specific example of how they were just almost starting to, I guess, like come into their own as a band. Like, I don't think Alice in Chains is a band, in my opinion, that because like how you said, they kind of fall between so many different things, not just metal, not just groove, but like so that lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was gonna say. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, so going back to that, I think like it just kind of shows that because they weren't trying to be a certain way, or because they weren't trying to emulate any sort of thing, I think it just kind of shows like the type of guys that they were and the type of band that they were. And as you hear more about how the band's story itself kind of goes on and evolves from like they were just these simple guys in a band, and to later things where their history gets a lot darker for them, I think it just kind of shows like where they were at this point in their career, I guess, which was still very, very early.
That's right. They were obviously playing clubs for a while and all that sort of thing, and really, you really get a sense of the scene back then was everyone knew each other, everyone was trying to help each other out and support each other's shows. That movie Singles, right? You've seen Singles with all the bands. Yeah, I'm guessing that would have been one of your favorite movies back in the day as well. So,
yeah, it definitely was. when I was first starting to like really get into Alice in Chains again was, I want to say, around the time I might have had Netflix before this, but this was like right when Netflix was just starting to really become any type of platform, and they did not have any of the original shows that they have. So like the main thing that I liked Netflix for at the time wasn't their streaming, it was for you could get some DVDs like sent to your house, and Singles was one of the ones that I got sent because I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they have this movie. And they didn't have like anything, they had that one.
Nice. Yeah, just the bands on there that chose for that, and it just felt like a real, networked community of, people supporting and loving each other's stuff. I don't know why that movie just popped on my head. I guess because a few of those guys do cameos and stuff in there and all that sort of thing. So. But yeah, no, it was.
Yeah.
The scene seemed very, conducive to, something in the air, something in the water at that time that just made such great music and live shows as well. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so Sea of Sorrow again. Look, Alice are famous for their really haunting, clean kind of sections, and then going into the distorted, heavier stuff, and then breaking it down again. And they've done that throughout their songs and throughout their albums. And again, the next two, Sea of Sorrow and Bleed the Freak, I think they're two prime examples of that sort of that dark kind of sound, but with some clean guitar, and then the heavy distortion coming in, and then coming back down. I think that really put a stamp on their sound and really made it something that, you heard it, you kind of knew it was Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think too, like with them, because prior to this, if you've heard like their demos, specifically with the Music Bank set, there's a demo for the song Social Parasite, and it's like very early Alice in Chains, and it's so easy to hear like where songs like Sea of Sorrow kind of like developed from that, but how at this time, just like you said, with Sea of Sorrow and Bleed the Freak was where they were also starting to, I think like that Dirt is a lot more of like the dark, like that's where they get really into the dark and like haunting themes and stuff. But Facelift, like you just said, specifically on those two tracks, is like where they start to, I guess, kind of blend both where they were going and where they were coming from. At least that's the way that it seems to me, especially with a song like Sea of Sorrow. That's kind of like, if you listen to all of Alice in Chains' discography, like if you just listen to the whole thing back to back, Sea of Sorrow and like some of the, like I said, some of the earlier stuff like Social Parasite are like kind of so different from everything else that they did, that like it is interesting to see that evolution and how it played out in the album, and how it further what's the word I'm looking for, like further ejected them into what they would be doing in the next album.
Yeah, interesting point you made there about where they've been and where they're going. So that's a pretty cool observation there. Yeah, because they make so I can't remember which comes after Bleed the Freak. I think I think the album starts to open up a little bit now in terms of sound.
Mm-hmm.
More more dynamics, a bit more diversity in the rest of the tracks. The first four have got a certain theme about them, like they're not all the same and they don't all sound the same, obviously, but there's something about those first four. And then from I can't remember, it a little opens up into a little bit more diversity, a little bit more some different sounds, some different sort of elements and melodies and grooves in there, which is cool. Like you don't want to have 12 tracks of the same thing, So
exactly. And that's what I like so much about this album, is because it's kind of like a wild ride through, I guess, what everything this band is capable of, because like you said, on I can't remember, it does kind of start to open up, and then we go back to Love Hate Love, and it just kind of like brings you back into like where we were with Bleed the Freak, for example. And then It Ain't Like That's one of those ones where you just like, it kind of opens things up, but it's one of those like, it's just the song that I want to bang my head to. It's like one of my favorite songs on the album. One of those kind of, it has like more of a Man in the Box type of feel to it, and it's like they kind of like jump in between those themes a little bit back and forth, and I think it adds a great dynamic, because for me this is an album that almost feels like it's over too soon. Like there's so much, like there's so many different going on, and I just like want more. Not that, and that's not me being critical of it, that's obviously me just being a greedy Alice in Chains fan that wants as much Alice in Chains as possible. But
fair enough. Look, yeah, like I would say from I Can't Remember is probably onwards aren't my favorite songs on the album, but I'm so glad they went that way, because like I said, it just like you said, displays more of what they're capable of, and just their talent, you know, as songwriters. And I mean, I love I Ain't Like That as well. I just love that riff. Like apparently that came from a bit of just a jam and a bit of a mess up, apparently Jerry said, but it just stuck. And
but that's exactly how it sounds, and that's why it's so good. It's just so like just that. It's just like real music. There's no, we tried to be so heavy and heavier than all the other stuff that was going on at the time. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of bands that do that stuff, and the albums come out great. But like for Alice in Chains specifically, I think the quality about them that makes them so alluring is like they're just Alice in Chains. Like they're just, their style of music is just the style of music that they're making. They're not trying to fit into any mold, and especially with an album like this.
Yeah, and just backtracking to Love Hate Love, I mean, I think that became I wouldn't say an anthem, but it became a track that I think so many people just related to for whatever reason and for their own personal lives, and just the pain in Lane's vocal and that you could just dial into it and not necessarily understand where he was coming from, but definitely relate to where he was coming from. So it's a pretty powerful song. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I'd call it an anthem too, honestly. I mean, we've definitely all sang Love Hate Love in our best Lane Staley voice at least once at the top of our lungs. It's just that main, like, I don't want to embarrass myself, but like that main part at the end, and it's like things kind of slow down, and it's just in the love. Yeah, it's just super powerful, and just like, I would definitely call it at least.
Yeah, definitely when they bring it back from when you think it's finishing and then it comes back again. Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool part of the song. Sunshine. Apparently that's Jerry says it's to do with his mum. Like it's a little bit of a dedication to his mum. And apparently the Facelift was dedicated to her because I think she passed away just before that time, not long before that. So, yeah. What do you think of Sunshine? It's a kind of it's a bit more of a, I don't know, what's the word? It's more of a rock song, more of a ballady kind of, not a ballad, but more of a rock song than a grunge song.
Yeah. So this song in particular, there's two on here, and I'll jump back, but Sunshine and Real Thing specifically, when I started listening to this album, first started listening to Alice in Chains, those were actually the two that kind of stood out the most at first. And I think it was because I agree they are more of like a rock song, or almost more of like I don't know if I want to say glam elements to them, but that's kind of like I know Lane had a history with that type of music, and they were kind of doing that before when he had his band Sleaze and stuff. So I think that's kind of like where sort of style delves from, but it doesn't go too far away from what they were doing though. Like it's not one of those, like normally on an album like this, and you would say, well, these other ones kind of like they all do these types of things, but then these other two tracks, like sometimes people would call those throwaway tracks. I don't think there's any throwaway tracks on Facelift, but I guess like maybe because they don't fit. But in this particular album, I don't think that's the case, because they still serve a purpose. And like we were talking about, the album kind of jumps around so much between so many different things that it all just fits, and it's all so cohesive. So even though Sunshine is kind of like different than what we heard in the tracks prior, it almost is kind of like, like we just came from It Ain't Like That and Love Hate Love, which are much more like heavier songs, whereas Sunshine is kind of more like the Sunshine of the album, like opening things up. It's kind of like more of like a laid back type of listen in comparison to the others.
It is. It's got a laid back feel, even though it's got definitely some heavy elements. I mean, it's really cool solo. Like all his soloing on this album, killer, great guitar solos.
Yeah.
I think he says Love Hate Love is one of the ones he's most proud of as in terms of the solo. But no, every single guitar part on this album is just, in my mind, is just awesome. Like he doesn't play a bad note. He doesn't play a bad note on this album, as far as I'm concerned. I'm a drummer, right? I still, when I hear good guitar, I got to give where credit's due, because awesome stuff. And Sean, I love Sean's drumming. He's got a swagger and a groove about him. You see it on the clips when he moves his head. He's always like this, He's an awesome drummer. Those two, when really, really kick-ass bands, the drummer and the guitarist, at least the rhythm guitarist, they've got to have a special bond, a special connection that it's only with those two guys. There's other members in the band, yeah. But if the rhythm guitarist and the drummer aren't, fully almost knowing what each other is going to do without saying anything, just the band won't have that longevity and won't have that keep releasing great track after great track as long as they go for, So it has the drummer and the rhythm. It's got to have that, yeah. And those two guys obviously do.
Oh yeah, I agree. Definitely.
It was like same with Dime and Vinny, and a bunch of other examples. Like the drummer and the rhythm guy doesn't have it. Too many band member changes or whatever, or it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But they can have a 30-year successful career, but yeah, it's good. It's all down, in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a drummer, but drummer and the rhythm guy, they've got to have that special chemistry. Otherwise, it just you won't get great album after great album.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. That's a solid point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure plenty of people might say, no, there's plenty of other examples of contrary to what you're saying, but especially in this genre or this style of music, I think that's a pretty strong case for that. Okay, so what do we got next? Confusion is almost like I wouldn't say it's Love Hate Love Part 2, but it definitely continues that theme in vibe and maybe lyrically a little.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. Yeah, I agree with maybe that it's not a part 2, but I don't know if you know how like musicals, they'll say, well, this is the Love Hate Love reprise or something. kind of like that, where it still keeps the same theme, but it has, musically speaking, it's not as, to me, Love Hate Love is like really just dark and emotional, and Confusion is more exactly as the title states it is. Like, it's more like, I wouldn't call it light by any means, but it's not as like gut wrenching as you would say like Love Hate Love is, for example. I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more helpless. A bit almost like hope is gone, kind of vibe. Not gut wrenching as dark, but just kind of like, well, it's kind of like all over and that's almost done with sort of feeling, you know. Yeah. That's the way I see it. I Know Something About You. That's a cool track. It's got a cool. I like the vibe. I like the vibe on that. Yeah. Different again. That's another song that stands in a little its differences.
Yeah, and it's like, it's one that's so different that it's very much like It Ain't Like That for me. Like, the reason I like it is the same way, that it's just like, it feels like I'm just like listening to these guys just jamming, like, and it just has that whole vibe to it. So yeah, that's one of my favorite songs on the record. And like, for me, because this is my favorite album, I will say like, oh, this is my favorite track on the album, but it's more of like a right now because it goes through phases. This whole album for me is like one giant mega track of perfection, but I would definitely say I Know Something About You is at least in my top 5 for sure.
Okay, cool. I think that is the way they combine their elements in these last, well, especially this song, I Know Something. It's just, again, just the vibe is, each track has its own thing going on, but there's still a thread that runs through all 12 that kind of, you know, make it like, yeah, like one piece, like one, like you said, like one album. That's like it's one of those albums that, yeah, a full listen is definitely much more, you know, you get so much more out of it than just picking and skipping tracks and just going here, going there. Just the listen all the way through, really, because bands do that for a particular reason. They put tracks in certain orders for you to get a certain experience out of it, you know, as they want you to get, you know. So
yeah, well, and who knows, maybe that's why, not to backtrack, but maybe that's why they did the first 4 like they did, because to me, like, since we were talking about this, I almost kind of feel like as the album goes on, that's where you more get into like the hidden gems, or like, they're not really like deep cuts, I would say, but like that type of, like, you have like your main 4 single tracks, which go down through Bleed the Freak. And then Love Hate Love is a pretty big song too. But I think as you go through, there's like all these other gems that, I guess, when most people think of Alice in Chains, they don't think of I Know Something or Sunshine or whatever. Yeah. But those tracks to me are like the little special ones that maybe I know, only I know, and other Alice in Chains fans know and love type of tracks.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like, super fans will do a deep dive into everything they've done. You know, you got fans, and then you got fans. You know what I mean? So you got fans that know up to this point of what a band has done, or their history, or what they've said about this, and what happened on this tour, and, you know, whatever. Then you got the fans that, yeah, it's a whole new level of fandom. It's like sometimes you've seen those shows where they quiz the band and then they got the fans next to them and then they quiz, and the fans usually end up winning. You know, the
Yeah.
quizzes, they know more about the band than they know about themselves.
Yeah.
I've seen that a few times.
That's very
It'd be,
true.
that'd be interesting if you went up against these guys, see who'd win. You reckon you'd win?
Um, I don't know. I feel like I would have a chance at the very least. There would definitely be a chance. Because I was pretty like, I think, especially when I first was really getting into them, I wanted to know as much as I could. Like, I love this band. And I think like now there's like, at the time when I was getting into them, there wasn't like all this information out there like there is now. So like, I had gotten to a point in my like learning about the band where like I ran out of things to Google about. So
Yeah.
nowadays there's probably lots more like information out there. And even when I was researching a post for them for my blog, I had even found some things that I didn't even know that I thought was pretty cool. So there's probably, I wouldn't say that I know everything about them, but I think I would have at least some sort of a chance and hopefully would not embarrass myself. Hopefully.
Have you seen Jerry Cantrell's interview on YouTube? It's a series by Gibson Guitars, and it's like an hour or something. And
No.
he just, yeah, check it out. I think you really like it. It's a whole. He goes through a whole history of how it all started. It's not just talking about guitar playing, but just the whole history of Alice, how it got started, and it's just a really, really cool sit down with Jerry Cantrell.
Oh, that's
Worth checking out. Yeah, if you just type something like Jerry Cantrell Gibson Guitars or something, it should come up. So it's at least an hour worth. Yeah, really, really, really
cool.
Cool interview. Yeah, and the real thing, that's we see a bit of Alice humor in this song, which is cool. It's nice to see they weren't all too serious all the time and straight faced, you know. So especially lyrically.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. This is definitely one of those tracks that like I said, when I was first getting into them, this and Sunshine were the first two that when I really sat down and listened to this album, like stood out to me. And I think that how you were describing it has a lot to do with it, because it's a lot more of them kind of like poking fun, but still keeping that. It's almost like they're kind of like teasing while still keeping that like dark vibe of the record, I guess. And I don't know, I just think that it's a really, really cool song, and it's another one that very much reminds me of kind of like their old demo days and stuff.
Yeah. What was I going to say? The very end of the whole album, when he screams out "sexual chocolate," it was just cracked me up so much the first time, because Coming to America was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. So yeah,
Nice.
When I first heard that, I thought, oh yeah, these guys are cool. They got, they're showing a little bit of their character here, so it's nice.
Yeah.
And actually, the first time I came across these guys, I hadn't heard any albums. Someone had given me the Pantera Home Video Part 1, and they're obviously on it, hanging out with Pantera and breaking stuff in hotel rooms and getting drunk and stuff. And so I knew so that was the first introduction I had to Alice in Chains, and okay, it's an interesting name. First thing I thought of when I saw the name was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It's kind of something that sticks in your head after you've come across it, you know. And then definitely. Very shortly after Cowboys from Hell, someone handed me. I had a bunch of friends in high school, and they always knew what was coming ahead. They had every metal magazine, and back then in the early 90s, the only way you'd know what was coming, what was great, what was about to drop, you had to, go out and buy these metal magazines every month or however often they released them. And most of them were from America or the UK and super expensive. Like back in the 90s, like $10-12 for a magazine is like all your money. Yeah, all your money for the whole week has gone on one magazine, you know. But if you're into it, you'd definitely go and get it, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's Facelift. That was a quick overview, but yeah, awesome album. I think the videos, like we said, We Die Young, Man in the Box. I know the other two probably had videos. I can't even remember the videos for See the Sorrow and Bleed the Freak. They did videos for them?
Yeah, so Sea of Sorrow was like I believe the whole thing's black and white. I don't think there's any color. And it's more like even video wise, because I used to have Music Bank that I watched constantly. So I can tell you in chronological order how their music videos went. And Sea of Sorrow was, for me, more of like a just traditional performance style video. Like Lane looked more like clean cut than I think we're used to seeing him, and obviously other things, at least to me, he looked more clean cut and things like that. So that video took a kind of I don't know, like a different turn in comparison to Man in the Box, another example of why I'm saying he looks more clean cut in the Sea of Sorrow video, and We Die Young. And for the video that they did years later for Get Born Again, they used the footage from Sea of Sorrow for that music video. So I believe, I remember offhand if the video came out after Lane passed or not, or they just didn't film a video. I can't remember exactly. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that the parts where they were showing them in the video, those are clips from Sea of Sorrow. And then the other one, which was Bleed the Freak, I think they just have a performance. The only music video I've ever seen for that was the performance-based one from that black and white show in Seattle that I think is like an excerpt from that, because even when I had Music Bank, I don't remember that being on there. So I think when they released that as a video, I think they just excerpt it from that show.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I could be totally wrong, but that's what I know is out there, at least.
Nice. And you said your Music Bank box set got ripped off. Is that right?
Yeah, it got stolen when I moved. So I'm hoping one day that I'll be able to buy another one. But I had like a big because I used to collect movies too when I was growing up. I was really into everything movies and music. And I had like a big case that had all of my movies in it. All those are gone too. Like 200 movies just gone. So should have.
Yeah, man. But yeah, are they still available, the Music Banks, or are they like limited edition kind of? You got to get them off eBay or from someone? Or?
I've tried finding them. I feel like Target is at least supposed to carry them. I don't know if they actually stock them or if you can actually find them, because I thought that they were supposed to be like limited, but I don't know. I haven't really gotten as far to see if it's ever actually in stock, or if Target just puts it on their website saying they sold it at one point and they may sell it again at a later date, but nobody knows when. I went to look up I'm looking for a Slayer Rain and Blood vinyl. So if anybody has any recommendations on where to find one, please let me know, because I've looked and I can't find anywhere that has one. And when I was looking online, I looked on Google and Target came up and it said, we have the Slayer Rain and Blood vinyl. And then I click on it and it says, but it's not in stock and we don't know when it's back. Do you want to be notified? So I have a feeling that's probably the same with I have a feeling it's probably the same with Music Bank, but I have to try it and see.
One day maybe it'll surprise you. It'll just turn up.
Yeah. Keep your fingers crossed. Maybe the person who stole it will return it. That would be the best thing ever. I wouldn't even be mad. Just give me my stuff back.
Yeah, that would be cool. So I got to ask, how many stars do you give, if you're going to give any stars out of 10? Facelift 10, 9.5, 9.75, 10 for you?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any extra stars, I'll take one because I will give as many stars as possible. So 10, 11 but
11 out of 10. That's pretty impressive. That's cool. And I also wanted to ask, over the years when you first, because you said you were about, was it 15 when you first started getting into Alice? Was it 15 years old?
Yeah, I was around 15. I specifically can remember being 15 and being really into Alice in Chains. So I probably started getting into them around like 13, 14. Really started listening at 15.
Okay. And Facelift, you might have mentioned it, but my memory is not always the best. But was Facelift the first album you heard, or was it something else?
I actually think I started with Dirt because the way that I got into Alice in Chains was our local radio station out here. They used to play new rock and metal music and then like older stuff too. So they would play like Alice in Chains. They would do a mandatory Metallica on Mondays, for example. They don't do that stuff anymore, but regardless, when back at this time when they were still doing it, they would play like Man in the Box, Wood, which is my favorite Alice in Chains song. I Stay Away, they played a lot. So kind of like when I started getting exposure to them like that, and that's kind of where I started. But I think album wise, when I finally got into the albums, I started with Dirt, and that's because I was so like just captivated by Wood that's where I started. But I think when I started listening to Dirt was also simultaneously when I was listening to Facelift, because like I said, I was discovering kind of songs from both albums at the same time. So it was just kind of like all falling into place, I guess.
Nice. Well, I think Dirt had more, for some reason, Dirt had more impact on me. I don't know if it's just the choice of songs on that album. I mean, I love Facelift to death. Like they're very close for me. Like I wouldn't even bother trying to rate one as better than the other. They're two pieces of work in their own right, you know. But I think Dirt has had some. I think it's just a bit more grit on Dirt, and as We Die Young comes and punches in the face. Same with Them Bones and Damn That River.
Exactly. Yeah.
Two like killer opening tracks for an album. Just heavy
and that's
yeah.
And that's what I mean with like the specific songs on this album, especially like you mentioned, We Die Young, Love Hate Love. Those are all things that become more prominent on Dirt, which is why it's so gritty and so different. Like Facelift for me is, both are my favorites, and Dirt is a close second, but Facelift is my favorite just because no matter what I'm doing, well, this applies to both albums, but no matter what I'm doing, I could listen to it at any time and it puts me in a really good mood. Whereas Dirt for me is a lot more personal and more like, I don't know. They're both great albums and I love them for different reasons, but Facelift is more of that, just like can play it anytime, anywhere. And like if I'm introducing people to Alice in Chains, I usually start with Facelift because I think for people who aren't really into this type of music but have the potential to like it, this is more of kind of like easing into that type of music. Like when I was in college, I can't remember if I mentioned this last time when we talked or not, but I was known as like the Alice in Chains girl. And then when I finally saw them in recent years, I even had somebody from college message me and said, "Oh my God, you got to see Alice in Chains. I'm so happy for you," because that was like my band And because they were my band, that like anybody I hung out with got exposed to them, and they knew the Alice in Chains song. But Facelift was always the one I started with, because Man in the Box was just so, like, everybody likes Man in the Box, I think.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I don't trust you.
What's that?
I said, if you don't like Man in the Box, I don't trust you. I'm just kidding. You don't have to like Man in the Box.
That's the next question I was going to ask, is your husband has got to have to be a huge Alice in Chains fan. You wouldn't have married him otherwise, right?
Oh yeah, like if I would have met him, like, Alice in Chains, they suck. Can't you listen to Nirvana? We would have been done right then and there. But yeah, he likes Alice in Chains. He's not like a crazy super fan kind of like I am, but he's very into them too. And especially in the years that we've been together now, I think he's gotten so much more exposed to like so much more of their discography because of me. So I think that's made him into more of a fan too.
Well, what's his band number one for him?
I'd say his number one. He has a couple, but he was really into Static X. Static X was a big one. So we went and saw Static X when they did the Wisconsin Death Trip 20th anniversary tour, and it was really cool. So Static X is a big one for him. Rammstein is another one that's a big one. He loves Exodus. I would say Exodus is probably his favorite band. Yeah, so like that. And like even because we're not that far apart in age, but he's 6 years older than I am, so he kind of has like a little difference in opinion on music and stuff. But even bands that were big when I was growing up were also big when he was growing up. So bands like Slipknot and like Korn, for example, those were big ones for him too, because that's at the time they were big. So, but Exodus is probably his favorite, I'd say.
Interesting. I think they're about to drop something soon, very, very soon.
Yeah, they're supposed to. I heard they're supposed to drop a new album, so I'm waiting to see if they're going to announce it like for late this year or if it's going to be early next year. But I'm pretty excited for it. Yeah,
because Gary Holt's been posting things over the last 12 months here and there, jams they've been having and this and that, so should be cool. Yeah. And another thing is female Alice in Chains fans. They're growing in percentage as the years go on, you think? Or I noticed quite a few at the concert. So.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for the longest time, I'm from a rural area, and for the longest time, I really didn't know like any other. I was just having this conversation with somebody today about this, actually. I didn't really know of anybody else, period, boy or girl, that was really into like heavy music. And then actually when I studied abroad when I was in college was the first time I met somebody that was an Alice in Chains fan that, like me. And we had like a good conversation about that. But I would say in recent years, I've seen it grow a lot. They definitely, women, their fan base, I wouldn't say it's any more different than like any other type of genre, I guess. But I do, like, I now know, and especially after doing my blog and stuff, which I'm so grateful for, I have met so many female Alice in Chains fans too that I'm like, it's not just me out there. You know what I mean? Because like you go to these concerts, and especially being in a rural area like out here, like where we have to travel to for concerts, there's people like coming from all over the place. So it's not really like we have like a scene per se in my area. So it's kind of like hard to judge, I guess, if that makes sense. But there's a decent amount of girls.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, definitely when I first started going to gigs in the early 90s, I could really see in that period from probably 91 293 up to 2000. Definitely the percentage increased heaps during that period, especially for metal shows. Yeah, especially for metal shows. One band that I was saying that really got a lot of women into it was White Zombie, La Sexy Sister. I was telling Ivan when I was talking to him the other day that when I turned around at that Brisbane show afterwards, it was just, I couldn't believe it was like probably almost more women than men there, and that was like mid-90s.
Yeah, that's crazy. Cool.
Yeah, I think just the grooves and the dancey vibe on that album really got a lot of girls into that particular album. So that was really cool.
Yeah. I think in general, though, as a whole, like for all the bands, I think we're starting to see that a lot more, which I think is really cool. It seems like it's a lot more, I don't know, it just seems like the community as a whole is growing so much too.
Yeah.
So, which is a good thing. That's what we want. You want the music that you love to keep surviving. So
especially when there's women in the bands as well themselves. So that's another huge draw card for the women fans. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you'd like to add, Courtney, about this album that you haven't already added?
I don't know. I think I said everything, but I guess if you have not checked out Alice in Chains' Facelift, I highly recommend you do so. I always say on my blog, podcast, Instagram, wherever I can say it, that if I can only get you to listen to, on this album, I'll pick 2 songs, and I'll take Man in the Box out just because it's such a well-known song that you should know, and if you to listen to it regardless. But other than that, I would say check out We Die Young, and it's so hard to choose. I don't know. Go with it. It Ain't Like That, just because.
Yeah.
But preferably listen to the whole album, and then let us both know what you think and how this was super influential and how we also turned you into an Alice in Chains fan. I love hearing how other people become Alice in Chains fans.
Yeah, it's always a good story. Great story. Great picks there. We Die Young and Ain't Like That. 2 awesome songs. Different songs, but really, really good.
Thanks.
Yeah, Courtney from versatilevirgo.com. That's the right web address, isn't it? For your blog?
Yep, theversatilevirgo.com. Yep.
Awesome. Everyone go check it out. She's got a great website, cool information on there about everything metal and the whole lifestyle that goes with it. Food, fashion, music, new bands, unsigned bands, a whole bunch of stuff on there. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Great talking to you today about Facelift. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great talking with you too.
Cool, man. We'll story tag each other and all that sort of thing when it's all ready to go, and we'll talk again.
Okay, sounds good to me. I will talk to you soon then.
All right, thanks very much, Courtney. Have a good day or evening. Sure, it's what, 7? What is it now? 8 o'clock there or something?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Yeah. You
have a good
morning.
Yes, I will. You have a good weekend. Take care.
You too. Thank you. You too.
Bye. See ya.